going on to item. We're going on to item 14. It's an amended item that I put on the agenda. Commission Regulation 0707 Amendment 3 on the fall wild turkey season, and Commission Regulation 0908 on the goose season, Southern Zone, Overton Wildlife Management Area, etc. And this is something we had to add to the agenda. Any commissioner got any comments on it? Commissioner Rain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, last time we changed an agenda item, we had presented with a large packet of letters and protests, and people didn't like the fact changing an agenda, and that was many days before the meeting. This one's, you know, at the legal limit of it, and I'm just wondering why there's no huge outcry from the cabs, or maybe there is, and I just haven't heard it, that they have not been consulted on this item, and most of this came after this change to the agenda came after most of all the meetings from the cabs. And you know, the difference between the other change and this one is it's the same. There's just an agenda item change. There's no difference as far as that goes. So I'm just kind of curious as to why there's no huge outcry on this one.
Commissioner Beth.
I think I can answer that question. The former agenda item change was of huge interest to every single cab and the public, and the response was appropriate to the concerns that the cabs had at that time with regard to that agenda item. This agenda item is nothing more than a ministerial change and correction of some errors just to clean things up. There's a huge difference, you know, between that agenda item and this agenda item, and the substance of this agenda item has been agreed to, and all we're trying to do here is get things cleaned up so that it is clear in the regulations and the documents that the public is going to see on this particular regulation.
I've got something to say about that. You know, at the last meeting in Elko, all the cabs and I think you, Commissioner Beth, they made a big issue of not changing the agenda. We had a policy and it said we should not change the agenda 2 weeks. And now only 1 month later, at this very next commission meeting, I was asked to change the agenda with no cab input. So the cabs did not know about this until Wednesday or Thursday. There's no cab input. And, you know, should I do this, Commissioner Beth? Because, you know, you were the one that objected to the policy 1, the 2, do not change the agenda because it says 2 weeks. And you were against this. And I just want you to know, Commissioner Beth, why I did this. I put this on the agenda. I added an amendment to the agenda. And should I say I'm sorry I can't do it because I don't have input from the cabs like the cabs insisted on? And I have to act in the best interest of sportsmen in this commission regardless of what, you know, what your comments were and what the cabs objected to. And if you wanted me to set policies so that nothing can be changed 2 weeks in advance, which is what you said, then things like this could not and would not have done. And this is exactly why the chairman needs the flexibility that the law allows and not have an absolute set policy. So I changed the agenda again, and I want to make it clear. It's a prerogative of the chairman, whoever it may be, and I've exercised it twice now to change the agenda. And the open meeting law says you have 3 days. It doesn't say for this or that. And I've exercised it twice, and I don't have any problems doing it. And I want to make it perfectly clear, this is not a fault of this commission that I had to add it. It's a fault of, or a mistake of the department. I'm sure the director is going to stand up to it and tell us the fault of it, but it's not our fault that I had to do it, and it's not to the cabs, it's not my fault that I had to amend it without notifying you, and I wish you could have had input to it because it's a very confusing issue to me. And so we're going to have a discussion on that, and I'm sure the director is going to explain what happened, because I'm not sure what happened on it. Commissioner,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question. Are we going to allow public comment on what changes we're going to do here?
Absolutely.
The amendments?
absolutely.
I think that's probably where we're at with this. As long as we're allowing the public comment, I'd hope that we don't have any complaints. I think that's where I see the problem last time stemming from, is they felt like they didn't get a chance to say anything. So that's where I see this being a big difference between last month in Elko and today.
The
Thank
problem is the cabs did not get to take it to their constituents, and so they will not probably be representing the cabs. They'll be individuals, and I'd like to see the cabs representing the county, but they didn't have time to do it, and that's the only thing I see. They'll be, I assume, representing themselves unless they had a special meeting, and I don't think they had time to do it. But we had to do the right thing and put it on here because we definitely have a problem, and I want the cabs to understand why we did it, why I did it, why I amended the agenda. I didn't want to take any more heat. Commissioner McBeth.
Thank you, Chairman Lent. I want to make clear that the objection that I raised at the Elko meeting with regard to the 2 weeks was a recitation of the Commission Policy 1. That is actually what is stated in Commission Policy 1. The DAG advised us that the open meeting law statute overrides that. And I accepted that, and I accept your authority to make a change, an amendment to, to the agenda. And for something like this, this is exactly what that discretion is good for. So I support and appreciate the fact that you did make the agenda change and that we can move forward now and as Commissioner Wallace indicates, allow public comment to make sure that in fact there is no issue with this particular agenda item.
Thank you. I think we'll turn this over to Director Mayer because it's, as I get it, it's two separate issues. Yeah. And it's kind of confusing to me, and I don't know if the other commissioners understand it, but and then we'll have public comment on it, and we're not going to have the exposure I want on it. But take it away, Director Mayer.
Okay, Suzanne handed out a package that says number 14 on it, and I just alert you to the bottom right. We wrote some page numbers there so that that we can refer to that when I get to that. What we have are really two issues. First is a clerical error that needs to be corrected on our part about the turkey hunting in Overton. It's simply that. I think the legal folks call it a Scribner error. I'm learning, you see. I see that. And the second is something that what I want to do is, as a department, to clarify what the commission approved regarding the goose season at the Overton Wildlife Area, so that we're absolutely clear. Because there's, depending on how you read the regulations, before we move forward, I didn't want to make that decision on my own. We have this commission meeting coming, so we'll have a discussion about that. If you turn to the first page on item number 14 here, is the verbatim, and actually I wanted to mention too that the videotape that we had that's on the internet, I hope you had a chance to take a look at it, became very useful because we went back and actually listen to presentations by our department staff and what they said and what they didn't say. But when it was presented to you about the fall turkey season, the only change that was proposed by the department was to change a tag reduction from 10 to 5 for the fall turkey hunt at the Overton Wildlife Area. And you see that there's not very much here that was really said by Mr. Espinosa. And so that was fairly clear. Everything else, our proposal was to keep the season, the bag limit, everything the same, just as it's been in the years past. The only thing was to reduce the quota. And your motion reflected that and your vote. And at that time, I think only 5. This happened at the Lovelock meeting, so the current commission makeup, there was 5 members of this commission here today that were there in Lovelock when that decision was made. When the staff put together the CR, the commission regulation, an idea arose. Instead of using the words in Moapa Valley, in those portions of Moapa Valley in Clark County, which is kind of a general description of the area, the idea was that why don't we go back to the map here that we have for the state, and it's all broken into units, and actually list the units that cover in those portions of Moapa Valley in Clark County. Well, when the CR was put together, only 2 of the 4 units that describe the area were put in the CR. And we have a review process where it goes to 2 other divisions, 2 other people look at it, and it was right. But no one asked the question, do we have 2 units or do we have 4 units? So if you look at the second page of your handout, you'll see what we our flyer that we put out for the sportsmen. And if you go to the October 5th to 14th wild turkey season, you'll see there's a tag quote of 5, which was what your motion was. But what is listed there are just 2 of the 4 units. Okay. I guess the question is that, and that's a clerical error on our part. So that would be on page 2. So that's what's currently written in the CR. And obviously, when we went back to the tape, that's not what the commission voted on. That was our clerical error when we put together the CR. So we're back here explaining that to you folks. And I'm not sure how we take action on this, but it's basically a discussion of the commission. What was it that you voted on? What was your intent there? And then direction to us on how we should proceed.
Are you which one you talking about? You're talking about the
Fall
one
turkey.
in the Lovelock meeting.
Correct. Correct.
And there's only 5 commissioners
that were there.
that were there, so only those 5 commissioners are going to vote. And why don't we name them now?
Okay. There was Mr. Macbeth. There was Mr. Morai, Mr. Rain, yourself, and Mr. Wallace.
Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was 6?
There were 6.
Okay, there was 6. And
6.
and there was, and I don't think Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I don't think you voted the way the vote was reflected. So I don't know if that makes any difference or not. You were there for the discussion, and the 6 of you actually heard the.
If I was there, even though I didn't vote, I could still vote now.
Yeah, I just want to point out what the facts were.
Speak up. The word is if I didn't vote then, I shouldn't vote now.
Is that a question for me, Mr. Chairman?
That's what my legal advisor told me. It doesn't make any difference, but I just want to, that's why he's here.
I discussed with Director Mayer before this item came up. I'm not sure what your pattern and practice is, whether if you don't vote no, you're assuming that you voted aye. That's how some commissions work, because you don't always hear every member on the tape, or if your pattern and practice as the chair is, unless you affirmatively vote one way or the other, you have not voted.
That's correct.
Okay, then if you didn't vote previously, you.
I can't remember, and so I have to depend on the minutes. I'm looking at the minutes, and I can't understand the minutes. They're not that concise enough to hear. So, did I not vote on this item? You did not. Okay. And if I did not vote, then I probably should not vote on this, according to my legal advisor. I want to put that on the record.
But you can still be part of the discussion. So.
I'll be part of the discussion. I mean, you know. And then, so it's going to be up to the 5 commissioners that so named to ask questions, and I can ask questions too. And I had a couple questions.
I guess and just to end, what I'm asking you to do is reaffirm what the motion was and what the vote was, and so then we can move on from there.
Why don't you state the motion then again, what it was, so the commissioners will know?
Well, it says Commissioner Lurie moved to follow staff recommendations for the Moapa Valley of Clark County. Commissioner Cavan seconded the motion. It was passed 7-0. So what the verbatim here is what was presented. That was the motion to follow staff recommendations. That was to include the Overton Wildlife Area in the fall turkey hunt, and that was passed 7-0.
So I guess we better, Commissioner Wallace?
I guess I'm just a little confused here. If you guys went back to the tape and it was presented to us, how it's not here, I'm a little confused as to what we're supposed to, if it's a clerical error, do we just instruct you to fix the clerical? I mean, at this point, is it all printed, or where I'm kind of confused where we're at.
The reason that the department wanted to bring this back was to ensure that the commission's understanding was the same as the department's understanding, because there was a Scrivener's error in, as it's represented on page 2, regarding what units were within that. We wanted to bring it back so that there was not a change that the commission was not aware of and was not allowed the opportunity to comment on. We could have, based on our understanding, changed this to include all 4 units, because that was what the department was recommending. But we didn't want to do that without bringing it back to the commission so that you would have opportunity, if our understanding and your understanding are different, that you didn't have an opportunity to instruct the department as such.
Commissioner Cavan?
I'm sorry, could you just give me those units again? It's, you want to add,
Yeah, right now, it's listed as 243 and 271. What we need to include is units 268 and 272.
and those, it was presented to us with those units included.
What was presented to you was in Moapa Valley within Clark County, which encompasses
All those 4 units, okay.
So it's trying to mirror image, we tried to, see this way, if there are turkeys that are killed other places at the wildlife area, we kind of like to know that. There's no way to know that on the hunter report without the units being as part of the regulation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do a good thing. Trying to do a good thing, and no good deed goes unpunished. So.
As long as we voted on the 4, I'm fine with it. I mean, we voted on a boundary, now we're just basically changing the description, but not the actual place on the ground. Is that correct? Okay.
I think the board voted one thing and the regs say otherwise, is that?
Yeah, yes, what we did was, the regs say 243 and 271. And what the board voted was for really 268, 272, and 243 and 271, but the regs don't say that. So I wanted to make
That's
sure
right.
before
The board
because the
voted
regs are
one
already
thing.
out.
The regs didn't vote otherwise. Commissioner Rain?
Well, I kind of have a problem with this, because I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm thinking, this was what was presented to us, these 2 areas. How could I say that it was my intent to vote on all 4 areas if it was never presented? As I mean, from this point, it's not what I would do today. It's what I believe the questions asked is, was it the commission's intent at that time? It's not what my intent would be today. At that time, was it indeed my intent to include all 4 areas? Well, if they were not included, how could it have been, if it was never presented, how could it have been our intent?
Actually, Commissioner Rain, what was presented to you was not any units in particular. What was presented to you was Moapa Valley within Clark County.
243 and 271.
No, the numbers I don't believe were attached. The department, when they did the reg, attached the numbers for tracking purposes in terms of where turkeys were harvested, so that they would have an idea as to which of those 4 management units were where the turkeys were coming from. But what was presented to you in Lovelock was Moapa Valley within Clark County, which actually encompasses the 4 management areas as Director Mayor has indicated.
Is there a copy then, and there's probably is somewhere in this pile, I don't remember seeing that, of exactly what was presented to us? Which page? Page 1. Okay. Well, I mean, page 1 is, it just shows that's a transcript, right?
That's correct. What it says is that the only change to the turkey regulation was the quota. Everything else, status quo. Status quo says Moapa Valley and those
The-
portions of Clark
I was
County.
looking for is the copy of the staff recommendation that we looked at.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a copy of what was presented to you, the 0707.
Just a second. Wait till he's done. You want to study those?
Yeah, trying to see.
It's on page 2, on the second page.
You've got the floor so far.
Okay, this is what was presented to us, and it states, we'll have to hand it down to everybody. It's in your wild turkey. Moapa Valley of Clark County, season dates, tag quota, hunts 0131 and 0132. Okay.
Who wasn't,
Guess I
what
should hand this
commissioner
down to
was
everybody.
missing? What commissioner was missing? Huh? Oh, yeah. His last meeting he missed. Yeah, okay. You give up the floor? Commissioner Macbeth.
Thank you, Chairman Lent. The way these regulations in the past have been presented to us have been, at least verbally, this document says the Moapa Valley portion of Clark County. Actually, the way it's usually presented to us is the Moapa Valley portion of the Overton Wildlife Management Area, which goes beyond Moapa Valley, but stays within Clark County. And so that is the way, most of the time we've heard this designation. And so I can tell you emphatically that the intent was to limit it to the Moapa Valley portion, which is solely within Clark County, but does go beyond Moapa Valley.
That's, I don't know, I don't get to vote, but confusing to me on the intent of what we're supposed to do. Commissioner Cavan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm relying on Commissioner Macbeth's experience. Did you say that it does include all these 4 areas, the general description that has been used in the past, or it does not? I'm sorry. All these 4 units?
It encompasses portions of all 4 of those units.
So you're okay with the amendment?
Yes, I'm okay with the amendment. I feel the amendment is, it's too bad that we didn't get a chance to discuss this at the actual meeting, but the fact that they're trying to make it more precise, I think, is probably a good thing. It's just they didn't get all the way there. So, yes, I'm in support of the amendment.
I'm going to turn it over to the public and then we'll bring it back here. Okay, I'm going to open it for public comment from anybody from the cabs. I mean, want to step up, or anybody from the public?
Paul Dixon, Clark County, for the record. What I will state here is 2 things. One, the amendments as stand. I called all of my board members after talking with Director Mayer on Wednesday when he informed me of this was going to be put on the agenda, and all of my board members were in favor of this and appreciated the fact that the NDOW would actually work with the commission to try to fix this so that we didn't have 10 turkey hunters who were unable to hunt certain portions of some hunt units. that were out there. And I would just like to state for the record that you brought up a concern about changing the agenda, Chairman Lent, and was backed by Commissioner Raines about changing things. And I will leave it to say that agenda changes that get published, there was a lot of concern about whether or not you could have public input onto this. Because I contacted my board and asked them to contact any of the public, there was one turkey hunter, as you read the minutes here, that actually came to our meeting and asked things. I actually called that turkey hunter who asked for the out-of-state tag, left a message, didn't speak with him directly. So the people who were at that meeting and had given input were there. And so they, even though this wasn't noticed where you could get CAB input, where we could have given you a recommendation, we do have public comment here, and I think that this is where you can solve that. And a chairman of a CAB, if he's done his job, especially for something that impacts this county, will do those things. When you change an agenda item, sir, and it is your prerogative to change an agenda item, and you avoid getting public comment on something, that's what I think upset at least the Clark County CAB from my perspective. And so when an agenda item was changed here, but we were allowed to get our input in and are able to stand up and speak here on it, that's what we're there. When you change the agenda where we weren't allowed to speak before you had an action item, that's what upset Clark County, and I'll leave it there, sir, for the record. Thank you.
Let me, I'm going to read in the record the 10 Turkey people that are influenced by this vote, just in the record here. Paul Allen from Las Vegas, Ronald Allison from Pahrump, Brian Kroll from Wappa, Charles Freemanis from Las Vegas, John Hurley from Las Vegas, Stephen Kirch from Las Vegas, John Labate from Las Vegas, Michael Stam from Las Vegas, John Tumanello from Henderson, and Jonathan Warwick from Las Vegas. Those are the 10 people involved in this, and just for the record, those are the, I think I read them right, those are the successful for areas 243. I don't know, I got a question. Is Overton, is all of Overton in Wappa Valley? I'm not familiar with the South. Yes. Commissioner Rain.
Yes.
I mean,
The communities of Overton and Logandale and actually Moapa itself are in the Moapa Valley. The Moapa Valley starts at what we call the lower end of the Meadow Valley Wash, where Warm Springs is, comes across Interstate 15 into the community of Logandale, down Logandale to Overton, and eventually dumps out. It's following the Muddy River is what it's following.
So you're saying yes?
Yes.
Okay. All of Overton is Moapa Valley. And we voted on Moapa Valley, is that correct? Because if there's any doubt, they shouldn't vote for it. I want to make sure you guys understand without a doubt what you're voting for. It's still open to the public, though. Anybody else? If not, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission to make sure everybody understands it. And again, we only have, 5 commissioners voting. Anybody going to count? Commissioner Mora, I haven't heard from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I have of Director Mayer is what is the department's recommendation? Do you want us to add units 262 or 268 and 272 to that, or strike the units out of strike 243 and 271 and just leave it at Moapa Valley portion of Clark County?
I think what I really wanted to do is to reaffirm what your direction was. And we can either do it with the old language or we can put the units in. I'd prefer to put the units in because that more well defines the area, and we can get better harvest information. Because we may have turkey harvest in areas that we don't even know we have turkeys. And with the way the wording in the old language, existing regulation, there was no real way to identify that. And that's, the staff was trying to do the right thing here. So yeah, I would, if you tell us what your direction was to include the Overton wildlife area, we would then add those other two. And we'll come back in December and we'll amend the regulation, but we'll move forward because the turkey hunt will have already occurred, because that's October 5th and the 15th for the two opening dates.
Well, I think in my mind, there's no question that the way that I voted was to approve those changes for Moapa Valley portion of Clark County. And as long as 268 and 272 are within that, that covers, for my mind, the intent of what we passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wallace?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We know the names of these 10 individuals. Have they been notified yet?
No, and because it would have been premature until this commission ruled. If the commission ruled, no, you made a mistake, those turkey hunters are out of luck, then I had the pleasure of calling each one of them individually and offering them a refund and no turkey hunt this year.
Can you guarantee them a tag next year?
No, I don't think we can do that. I mean, they're going to still have a turkey tag, but it'll only be good for the 2 units that don't include the Overton wildlife area, where most of the turkeys exist.
Say that again?
They'd have 2 choices. They could ask for a refund and get their, I don't know, was it $20 or whatever back, or they could hold their tag and only hunt in the 2 units, 243 and 271, which don't have many turkeys.
Is that Overton?
No. That's
So
the problem.
we passed it for those 2 units where there's no turkeys.
No.
No?
No, you passed it for the entire area. What we did is we made a clerical mistake and only described half of the unit that you authorized to hunt, and that's what's in the CR. I just want to clarify that you're talking about the whole unit, and then we will administratively go in and add those 2 units that we inadvertently left out of there, and then we'll come back and officially clean up the CR in December.
So they'd still be able to hunt, but they'd hunt in an area where there's no turkeys.
Basically, yeah. So if I was a hunter, I'd say give me my money back. I'm not going to be very happy because it might take years to get drawn.
Commissioner Cavan?
Personally, I don't think with Ron Lurie sitting on the commission and Clark County, I do not think we would have left out Overton as part of this recommendation. I just don't think that would have happened. I'm not familiar with the area, but you're telling us it's the same area that it's always been, and everybody assumed that. So I don't think we even have to vote. I think we did what we did, but if we want to vote on it, we can do that as well. But I'm comfortable with not expanding, but including those areas that we thought we included originally.
And quite frankly, I probably could have just made a decision, a unilateral decision. We made a mistake. That shouldn't affect the turkey hunters, and so be it. But in today's world, and we had a commission meeting coming up prior to the opening of the season, I thought it was a prudent thing to come back to you guys and ask what was it that you really remembered and give me more direction. And then, so now we're all on the same page when we move forward. And quite frankly, no one's going to be upset about making sure that we do the right thing here. So.
And we got my legal opinion here. I'll be talking to him in a minute. Commissioner Rain.
Now, one thing is, and what we voted on, I mean, we can't vote on what is now presented. We can only vote on, in my mind, what we were presented with at that point. At that point, it was the Moapa Valley portion of Clark County. That's what that says. Is that right? So that, if we're going to vote on something, we should vote on that and just leave it there, because actually it shouldn't have, however, that'll even include another unit. That would actually include 244. That's what was approved, was, although a lot of that's private land and tribal lands, but so if we approved this with the limitations of those 4 areas, it'd actually be more limited than what we voted on, I'm thinking. So if we're going to go with something, it should be what we said, what was presented to us, without the units, and if the department would want to go ahead and add in, please tell us what unit you harvested in.
What my plan is what if you decide that you already gave us instructions, go forth and do that. I'll call all 10 turkey hunters and say, by the way, don't pay attention to this. It does include Overton Wildlife Area, and it will be open for turkey hunting. And leave it at that. We'll come back in December and we'll fix it so that it's in the regulation. So in the future, we don't have to mess with it.
Well, if we, and from what I'm getting at, because I'm not familiar, if we did approve all of Moapa Valley and includes Overton, then what's the problem?
The problem is
They can hunt anywhere in Moapa Valley, according to Commissioner Macbeth.
well, the problem is that the CR doesn't state that. And before I call these guys and say, go, this is how we're interpreting.
Well, if Overton is in Moapa Valley and we approved all of Moapa Valley, why can't they hunt in Overton?
They can, but before I made a unilateral decision, I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. Because the regulation doesn't state that. Your motion did, but the regulation that we drafted left those 2 units out. This is really a clerical mistake, but I didn't want to get out on a limb.
I'm good.
Any other comments? How about from my legal staff?
No, I think is,
Speak up.
there we go. I don't see any.
Identify yourself.
Oh, sorry about that. Robert Whitney, Deputy AG representing Wildlife Commission. I don't think there's any issue here. Just to correct an error, it sounds like from the information Commissioner Macbeth provided, I really don't see a problem.
Any other questions by any other commissioners? If not, I'll accept a motion for something.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, Commissioner Cavan.
I'll make a motion that we reaffirm the decision that we made at the Lovelock meeting for, I don't have the exact number here, 0707, Amendment Number 3, to include Moapa Valley and the portions of Overton Wildlife Management Area. And in addition to that, anything that we've done traditionally. I think that'll be clear enough.
Is that,
I'll second that.
will that do it? Any other Commissioner Rain?
I'm a little confused on that. I mean, I think we voted for the Moapa Valley portion of Clark County. And I'd be happy to vote to say the Moapa Valley portion of Clark County, and just leave it with that, and then go ahead and fix it later and rearrange the units. But if it's, because that's what we voted on, that's what was presented to us, I'm good with that language, but this other, I'm a little bit,
I don't want to change anything that we voted on before. That's not the intent. It's just to reaffirm. I'll withdraw my motion, and we'll get it exactly right here. You want to
What's that?
I'll withdraw that motion. We'll just get a real clean wording here.
You got to withdraw the second first.
I'll withdraw the second.
You're going to withdraw the motion? Then, somebody want to reinstate a motion then? I'm confused, so don't ask me.
Yeah, I don't, and maybe council can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we do what Commissioner Rain states, we've already done that. And so that was our motion in the prior commission meeting. And so now I'm wondering whether we need to do anything at all. And if we can just let it go, and you can clean up your regulation at the next meeting, and make whatever contact to the hunters that is necessary to make sure that they are perfectly legal to hunt in these other 2 units that are in Clark County, and just leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman, that works from the department's perspective. We now understand that, again, what the commission intended, and we can go forward from there.
But it wouldn't only be 2 units, it'd actually be all, 4 units, it'd actually be all 5.
Correct.
Because that's what the motion was before. And I don't know that there's one turkey in that area or not, but that's what's voted on, so, hey.
It's the Moapa Valley portions of Clark County, and
Right.
we're clear on that, so that works
That's
for us.
what the motion was.
Thank you.
And we won't take any action on that.
If you want, just,
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, if we have turkeys in Unit 244, we've got a new species that's drought tolerant, and we ought to really think about expanding that population.
Commissioner Rain.
this is a question, if you wanted us to reaffirm that, that's fine. If not, just leave it.
We shouldn't have to do that, I don't think. If we've made the motion once and went through it, I don't think we have to, it's like taking wedding vows again. Yeah, no, we won't do that then.
Good.
So we're not gonna make a motion. Next item.
Well, since that was so easy, we'll make the 5 o'clock. What the second issue here is that what we need to do is clarify what the commission approved regarding the goose season at the Overton Wildlife Area. If you turn to page 3, goes 3, 4, 5, and maybe you've had a chance to look at this, but let me boil it down to you. Mr. Mortimer basically got up and presented to you the draft CR 0908, which is the waterfowl seasons. And in that discussion, on page 9, if you turn to page 9, it describes the Canada and white-fronted goose season in the open areas of the northern zone, the 17th, and the southern zone, the October 17th. Now, traditionally, in the old days, Overton started with the duck season, and then the goose season started. In the description and to the commission was that when the staff came to southern Nevada, the Overton folks really wanted to delay the duck season for 2 weeks and start, instead of with ducks on the 17th, start with a goose season. And that the goose season would then be every other day till the duck season started, which would be the 31st of October. And that's what Mr. Mortimer presented to you. And that's simple. And we did this last year. The separation between goose and duck last year was a week because of the way the weeks fell. This year it's 2 weeks. Okay? So if you turn now to page 11, because there's 2 things that, what happens when you pass the waterfowl regulation, that's a statewide thing, an all-area thing, and if you want to do something specifically on a wildlife area, there's another set of regulations, commission regulations. So that's where CR 0707 comes in, and it had a lot of different things in there, including, if you turn to page 13, the description of what's legal to what activities are legal on the Overton Wildlife Area. And if you see on page 13, number 1, it says under Overton Wildlife Management Area, let me read, I want you to read along with me what it says. It says, during the waterfowl season, of course, waterfowl encompasses ducks, geese, gallinules, coots, snipe, the whole deal. Okay, hunting is permitted on the Moapa Valley portion of the area, the Overton area, only on the opening day of duck season, alternate days thereafter throughout the season, opening day of goose season, and the closing 2 days of duck and the goose season. And the reason those were put in there is that if you started the duck season, and then every other day they get to hunt at the wildlife area, and if the goose season happened to open on a day that the area was closed, the instructions were you're going to open the wildlife area and allow goose hunting. Now, there's 2 interpretations of this, and the reason I'm bringing this to you is some would read this to say, well, if the goose season starts first, that doesn't change the instructions here that it's open every other day thereafter. Okay? A literal reading this would say that the opening day of goose season, and that's it. And then you got to wait till the duck season opens before every other day occurs. I think what I wanted, and what I heard from the commission at the meeting was that what you wanted was that the goose season would open on the 17th and every other day alternate till the duck season opened. And so I bring this back to you because we did not change these regulations. If you turn to page 15, this is an example of some language that we're going to propose in the future, at the December meeting, to make it more clear, because it's ambiguous from our perspective. It kind of depends on how you read it. And the example language would be more simply, waterfowl hunting is permitted in the Moapa Valley portion of the area on the opening day of the earliest opening waterfowl season, yada, 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 okay? That would have been much more clear, and we should have probably fixed that, but we didn't. And so, because this was brought to my attention that you can interpret this two different ways, I could have made a decision to open it one way, but I thought maybe I was overstepping my bounds, and that we had this commission meeting here in September. So it was a perfect opportunity to get in front of you to ask you to clarify for us what it was that your motion was and in direction to the department. So that's about as clear as I can make that.
I'd just like to, before I start, I had comments with our Attorney General and Reno O'Brien on this one, and he said he's got some problems with this, and I'll reiterate some of them here. And a couple things here is, first of all, we were not presented CR 0707, the WMA regulations. They were not presented to us, and yet we're trying to discuss them and vote on them, or what our intent was. Well, he said, you know, if your intent is to discuss something that we didn't get, then you might have a problem on that. And the other problem we have is notification. We've got the brochures printed, all of the brochures printed that say this, and how are we going to adequately notify the sportsmen and the public on this when all the brochures are printed, and we have a very short time right now to notify them. And you know, I know what the director's saying here. We did not know what the regulations on the Wildlife Management Agency were. We were presented with them, but you know, I think the question is here: did we intend to open it goose season and then wait and open the duck season 10 days? You know, Clark County has asked for some different regulations in waterfowl, and I remember in Eureka a year ago, they wanted to have a 2-week later season I voted for, and so they've always had different seasons in the north, you know. So I know they wanted to have they took, this is what I recall from memory, and my memory's not as good, but they were willing to take some time off the end of the season, move it forward for the goose season and sacrifice that, because we had a certain framework to operate in, and they wanted the goose season early. And I don't remember much on the conversation past that. Now, the voting was, I did not vote on this, is that right, Suzanne, too? So if the vote was 8-0, I did not vote, no. It was 8-0, so, oh, that's right, I did not vote. We had, and all these commissioners can vote, except me, then I should not vote because I did not vote on that, so I will not be voting on this. I'm just discussing what our Attorney General said. And, you know, he told me it's a big problem because 0707 wasn't in the packet.
And Mr. Chairman, what I'm bringing to the commission is how do you interpret 0707, currently on the books? I just read you what's currently on the books.
Right.
And the confusion was you could interpret it two different ways. And I thought it'd be better to have this discussion on what does this really say.
Well, and he also said, if we can't understand this, we should table it. That's what he told me. And that's my conversation, and since I'm not voting, I will open up to Commissioner Macbeth.
Thank you, Chairman Linton. First of all, I would agree with Dag Stockton that if we didn't bring a regulation before us in the prior motion, that we probably don't have the ability to do anything with that. That's my first comment. My second comment is that I actually believe that a reading of the regulation in CR 0707 can easily be read to cover our situation. And if you look at the phrase, if you look at the sentence, the first sentence, what we're talking about is being able to hunt on alternate days thereafter throughout the season. So the question is, what season? There are two phrases before that portion of that sentence. The first part of it says during the waterfowl season. The second phrase, portion of that sentence says hunting is permitted on the Moapa Valley portion of the area only on the opening day of the duck season. So the question is what season is the third phrase discussing, the duck season or the waterfowl season? My position is that it's actually referring to the waterfowl season. And if it refers to the waterfowl season, and I think you can clearly read it that way, we don't have a problem. Because whether the hunt start date for duck or goose, you know, if we're talking about hunt start dates for either duck or goose, this regulation states that the hunt season, the hunt days are the alternate days thereafter throughout the season, which is the waterfowl season. So I think we're okay. Certainly the proposed amendment to this regulation will clarify it and make it absolutely clear. But I think a very solid reading is present there. I want to also point out one other thing as to what the intention of this commission was and what we voted on based on.
It would be your intention was, not the whole committee.
Oh.
Each commissioner has to tell what their own
Right.
intention was.
What, understood, but this is what was communicated by Mr. Mortimer with respect to this issue. If you look on page 3 of the handout that we got on number 14, page 3, under ducks and mergansers, there's a statement in there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down, starting after the paren, to cut off the first 2 weeks of duck hunt, which translates to 7 hunt days, as the wildlife management area is only open every other day in duck season. That is the Moapa portion of Overton. So, to me, he is making it very clear that that the hunt days are every other day. So that's what I saw. But more importantly, just a literal reading of this regulation, I actually have no problem with it. I think it covers us.
And any other commissioner have any comments on this? Can figure it out too?
We got it figured out.
Huh?
We figured out.
Commissioner Ray.
You know, maybe it's my lack of legal training in the art of stretching words around and getting them coordinated, but I read this and, I mean, it says opening day of duck season, alternate days thereafter. I mean, if it said waterfowl season, there is no general waterfowl season. Waterfowl season is a conglomeration of many different subseasons. So, well, I don't know what the opening day of waterfowl season could be determined. I mean, say, well, it's the first species of waterfowl. So, and it seems very clear in here, opening day of duck season, alternate days thereafter. Boom. That's as clear and concise. The linking of that to waterfowl season, yeah, I don't know, maybe I need to go to legal college to make that stretch.
Might ask our DAG here to jump in, but if you turn to page 7, waterfowl season, migratory waterfowl regulations covers all the details. So it's a generic term, as Mr. Macbeth had pointed out. So to the biologist, waterfowl season encompasses all the particular little seasons for the various species. So that's the way I would have, if I was going to render a decision without commission help, that's what I would have done. But I thought it would be better to have this healthy discussion before we get too far out on that limb.
It will be healthy. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the public for any comments from the public. Anybody want to comment on this from out there? I've given you the opportunity. Seeing none, I'll move it back to the commission for any other comments. Commissioner Cavan.
I would just comment that I think biologist Craig Mortimer made it pretty clear that it was 7 days, and I certainly recall no intention of having a one-day goose season. So certainly our intention, whether it counts or not at this point, my intention or my feeling was that it was for those seven days every other day, and we're getting caught up in the devil's in the details here. But I appreciate the department bringing it to us for consultation. But I think we're okay.
What about the brochures now? What do they say again?
They state the regulations, so it's really how the department's going to interpret it and whether or not the wildlife area is going to be open or not. And
does this interpret the regular? I guess I have it. I could read it. Does this say it's open alternate days then for that?
It states exactly what I've given you here. I think the hunters are expecting it to be open on opening day and every other day thereafter. If we decide that, no, that's not what this says, then we would have to then make the notification and let people know that it's what's a one-day thing.
We'll have Robert.
One thing I'm a little at a disadvantage here because I wasn't on this one more so than the other one. The other, to be honest, the other part of this amended item was a little bit clearer to me, but something Chairman Lent had said, it kind of threw me for a second, but this matter was brought up at the prior meeting at Lovelock also, was it not?
In Elko.
I'm sorry, at Elko, and commissioners had reviewed this item and considered this very this information that's being presented again today. Okay, thanks. Then and they're being asked to reaffirm their intent is what they're doing. Then I think that's if the commissioners reaffirm their intent of at the prior meeting in Elko, I believe that should be fine.
And I'll process any motion anyone wants to make, but I think if you're for this, I think the motion should go something that I move to reaffirm that our intent of opening the goose season on October 17th was have it open every other day until the duck season in Overton or something to that effect. But I think that's the way, if you believe your intent. And so I'll process any motion anybody wants to make. Yes, we need a motion.
We didn't do it on the last.
Do we need a motion on this one?
I think we do.
You know, it might be safer if we did. You know, I don't think it would hurt to have a motion.
And if the motion basically said reaffirms what that the goose season would commence on the 17th and every day thereafter, and we'll implement the regulations accordingly.
I think
Alternate days.
I think that's something like I said.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Capurro.
since this was adopted this part of it was adopted in Elko, then I'm presuming that the new members of the commission were.
Yes. 8 people can
Involved in
vote on
voting.
this, excluding myself. So I'm not guilty. I'm innocent. Or you could table it, and if you're not sure of your intent, you commissioners, then you should table it. If you want to vote your intention, then you should make the motion like we decided. It's just, I think is that the bottom line? And I'll process any motion anybody wants to make. Commissioner Rain.
You know, my intent was to put it exactly as it was stated, and exactly as it was stated was the opening day of duck season, alternate days thereafter throughout the season, opening day of goose season, closing 2 days of the duck and goose seasons. That can be my only intent. because nothing else was presented. You know, there will be a few days in there for goose hunters that might not be allowed, but I can't vote on that because it wasn't presented, wasn't discussed, so I can only vote on what was presented. Therefore, I mean, I would need to make a motion. I'm trying to think of the wording on it, but I'd like to move that the intent of this commission was to provide the opening day of duck season and alternate days thereafter throughout the season. Opening day of goose season, closing days of duck season, duck and goose seasons, exactly as stated in the regulation. And that does mean what it means. Duck season, alternate days thereafter. It doesn't say goose season.
Would have been easier to table it. Okay.
It would have been easier.
I'll let the secretary repeat this motion when we're done if we get a second on it, you know. We have a motion, is there a second to the motion? No second to the motion, so the motion fails, dies. Anybody else have a motion? Commissioner Macbeth?
Thank you, Chairman Lent. I'd like to make a motion that the commission or a majority of the commission reaffirm their intent at the Elko Commission meeting that the Canada and white-fronted geese regulation in the southern zone started on October 17, 2009, and included alternate hunt days thereafter until the opening of the duck season, which I believe is October 31.
We have a motion and a second, and has everybody understood the motion then? So I don't have to repeat it. Any questions on the motion? Commissioner Rain.
You know, as much as I'd like to support that, and if it came up to a vote again, absolutely, but, you know, I cannot vote today on what I know today. I have to vote on my intent at that time, and just due to the fact that it was not presented that way, it was not discussed that way, we had no information supporting that, it would be impossible for me to go back and say that I had intended something that I had never seen. And indeed, I don't think anybody has seen until this information came out.
Commissioner Mora?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think going back to, in my mind, what the intent was at that time, it's pretty clear that if it was presented to start the goose season 2 weeks prior to the start of the duck season, it was to give the goose hunters the opportunity to hunt every other day before the duck hunters hit there. So in my mind, there's no question as to what the intent was when we voted on it at the time.
Any other commissioner comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All for the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? One opposed, motion passes. Does that help? Okay.